Kylo Ren is now Supreme Leader of the First Order. To me, this is so interesting, and it begs so many questions. The most important question to me is, how exactly is he going to go about ruling? Will he make changes to the status quo of the First Order? And how will the First Order take to him as their new leader? There's also the question of Rey and what his relationship with her will result in as far as the First Order is concerned. And considering some of the stuff I learned from the Last Jedi novelization, I wanted to do this video to sort of outlay some of the ideas I have and where I think our new Supreme Leader will go from here. Let's talk about it. What is up, YouTube? It's Josh. This is the Den of Nerds. If you love Star Wars, you're going to want to subscribe to this channel because I cover a ton of Star Wars. And it's also Star Wars Sunday here on the channel. I always drop Star Wars videos on Sundays on the Den of Nerds, so subscribe to get it all. I also want to shout out Dan Fan, who got the nerd card question correct in my latest Wakanda in Infinity War video. You definitely know your stuff when it comes to Marvel Comics, so shout out to you, Dan. There'll be another nerd card question at the end of this video. All right, everybody, let's get into this. So I am a huge Kylo Ren fan, as a lot of you know that watch the channel, and I'm incredibly excited to see where this character goes now that he's in charge of the First Order. So I want to go over a couple of different things, talk about some stuff I learned from the novel, and speculate about what I think is going to happen to Kylo Ren as he moves forward. So the first thing I want to talk about is the legacy of Supreme Leader Snoke. So the Supreme Leader of the First Order was Snoke, and we all know that, but what's very interesting and something that's laid out in the novel is that Snoke was not the selection by a lot of people within the organization to rule. And Snoke actually has a point of view chapter in the novel where he's talking about his rise to power, the people that he had to thwart and literally destroy in order to secure his throne. He's talking about people like Rey Sloane, Gallius Rax, and Brendel Hux, who is the father of Armitage Hux, who's the General Hux we know from the movies. So this is all really interesting, but it leads us to a very cool place. You see, Snoke was able to leverage his knowledge within the dark side of the Force and his relationships with different aliens out in the unknown regions to formulate trust and to get people to recognize him as their leader. One of the other very interesting things that Snoke leaves behind as a legacy is an integration with the dark side and the Force in general for the First Order. This is very different than the Empire of Palpatine, who kept the fact that he was a Sith Lord to his inner circle. Not a lot of people knew about that, but everybody in the First Order knew that Snoke was an incredibly strong dark side user. I mean, he literally whips around General Hux in front of all of these different people. The First Order uses kyber crystals in their weapons. They have Force organizations like the Knights of Ren, and they have a general or kind of an outside of the army type of leader as Kylo Ren, and everybody knows Kylo Ren is the legacy of Darth Vader, a Sith Lord. So I think some of this has to do with it coming out about Palpatine that he was a Sith Lord. A lot of people within the contingency did end up knowing that Palpatine was a Sith Lord. This has to do with his final wishes as Emperor and the whole reason that members of the Empire gathered on Jakku and then went into the unknown region. So this is pretty interesting and sets a nice table up for Kylo, because I think the fact that he was a student of Supreme Leader Snoke and he is also very gifted in the dark side and that he is heir apparent to Lord Vader, I think that all of these different things will literally add up to basically a lot of credibility for Kylo Ren being the Supreme Leader. However, I don't think it's just going to be a gravy train for Kylo, and I want to talk about some of the dangers he will face as a leader. Number one on that list is General Hux. Now, a lot of different people got a hold of me, hit me up in the comment section, different things like that, talking about how General Hux might literally force Kylo out of the First Order or be a huge problem for him. And my instinct, my first reaction was, there's no way. Look at the way that Kylo whipped him around in The Last Jedi. I really don't think he has much to fear from General Hux. But if you read the novelization of The Last Jedi, you come to realize that the reason Hux was on the shuttle with Kylo at the end of the movie is because Kylo wanted to keep him close. There is a moment where Kylo goes into his thought process about this, and he talks about the many people that General Hux had murdered in order to secure his rise to power, and this included his own father. Of course, this was all manipulated by Snoke, but make no mistake about it, Hux is incredibly dangerous, and that is why why Kylo had him close. He didn't want any accidents to befall him as the new Supreme Leader. There's also a very cool aspect of Kylo's character that is explored in the novelization, and this is the fact that he does not think that he is invincible. When he enters the throne room for the first time, we hear thoughts about how the Praetorian guards could probably defeat him on their own, but coupled with the force prowess of Snoke, he would stand no chance if he ever tried to actually strike down his master. Now, we know with the help of Rey, he was able to do that, but it was good to hear that Kylo doesn't think he's invincible and that he is calculating about how all of these things come into play. Later on in the novel, when he's fighting Luke, he is always thinking about a sneak attack that Luke could try, something quick, always being on his toes and recognizing that this victory will not be easy. When you couple that with the fact he knew he had to protect himself against General Hux, I think this actually is very cool. It means Kylo is on the lookout for threats that could dethrone him, and he's aware that he does not have Teflon armor. That's very cool. So it implies that Kylo knows that there are weaknesses, but it also elevates Hux as a risk. And make no mistake about it, Hux wants Kylo out of the picture. Hux wants to be Supreme Leader. This is something that is explicitly spelled out in the novelization, but I think we could all put that together just from what was on the screen. Now, you might say, why wouldn't Kylo just kill General Hux? And that's an interesting question, but it leads me into another weakness that Kylo will face as a leader. You see, he will need the support of the First Order, and though he will be dictatorial and use the Force and probably be a very cruel leader, if he takes that too far, even people within the First Order will have a problem with it. They could secede, they could rebel, and a house turned against itself cannot survive. So I think the bottom line is here that Kylo has to figure out a way to rule in which people will respect him, fear him, but not want to destroy him. If he fosters that feeling too much, they will rise up and they will destroy him. Killing General Hux, I think, would be a big mistake because it would literally create a lot of animosity within the troops. The Stormtrooper program is Hux's program. A lot of people within the First Order look up to Hux. And so if you just eliminate someone like that, all of those people that liked that guy are going to be pretty pissed off at you. So no, I do not think Kylo's just going to eliminate Hux. And if he does, I think it will be to the detriment of his rule. Now, real quickly, I do want to speak to how cool it would be if he was pushed out of the Order and was exiled and had to go be on his own. This would be an incredible twist. I really don't see it happening, but it could be really interesting in a way for him and Rey to reconnect. Now, the last thing I want to talk about in this video is the fact that Rey and the feelings that Kylo has for Rey will impact his rule, and he will have a choice to make. I think at the end of the day, we all realize that they are being positioned as the big bad and the hero of the story. This tension is going to be fueled by the fact that they have an intimate relationship. Whether or not you think it's romantic, and I tend to think that it is, whether or not you believe that, you have to admit that they have intimacy. They've shared memories, they know each other's past, they have literally fought side by side, eliminating Snoke. They both knew a lot of the core characters that are involved in the galaxy. They both knew Luke Skywalker. They both knew Han Solo. So they have an intimate relationship. And it will be interesting to see how all of that plays out in the context of the galaxy. I could see something where Rey is spreading ideas about Kylo because she knows him so well, and this could create a lot of interesting situations while Kylo is trying to deal with other planets or regions around the galaxy. And besides all of that, I believe that the pull to Rey and the pull to what the Force actually desires will put Kylo in a constant state of conflict. A side of him, like his ego, does want to rule and carve out his legacy within the galaxy, but I believe that the Force is going to continue to whisper to him that instead of all that, he has to go balance the Force with Rey, and I don't know exactly what that means, but I know it would mean giving up his ambitions as Supreme Leader. So that conflict within him and the fact that the Force will be positioning her in front of him as a literal and figurative temptation is going to be his greatest challenge as Supreme Leader. So those are just some of my thoughts and insights into what might happen with Kylo Ren, especially considering some of the stuff that happened in the novelization of The Last Jedi. I love that book. I love Star Wars. I love all of you out there. So I want to know your thoughts about this. Drop it down in the comment section below. I am very interested to hear all of that. All right, let's check that nerd card really quickly. I want to know, from the deleted scenes of The Last Jedi, what was Rey's third lesson. This is something that was cut from the film. It's a very interesting scene, but I want to know, what was Rey's third lesson by Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi? Answer that question in the comment section below. As I always say, I hope you are having an awesome and nerdy day, and I will see you in the next video.